Hi, it's Jan Beta, and we're going to take a look at this lovely 1972 Philips reel-to-reel tape recorder today. Now, this is a Philips N4416, released in 1972. It's a 1/4-inch reel-to-reel tape machine, 18 centimeter or 7-inch reels maximum. It's not a very high-end machine, it's just your typical consumer-grade machine that only has one combined record and play head and an erase head. It has 3 motors though, and some other little features that are quite nice. This was kind of from the heyday of reel-to-reel machines when they got really good, even the consumer models. And Philips, at that time, the early 70s, was really a brand that stood for quality. I had this thing sitting in my lab here for quite a while, unused. It has some problems that we're going to try to fix today. I didn't really start working on this because reel-to-reel is a really expensive hobby. I already realized that when I got the machine. But it's also lovely to work on these, and they are really, really serviceable. They were meant to be repaired, and it's very well documented. The service manuals and everything are online. Really high build quality. Should be a fun experience, hopefully. And I already spent quite a bit of money on spare parts because I already know some of the things that are wrong with this. I got this from a coworker and friend years ago, and it was just sitting in the lab basically as a decorative piece. But now I plan to integrate this into my living room stereo because I am pretty fond of analog media. I'm a huge vinyl fan, and yeah, magnetic tape is no exception. And these are, sound quality wise, these are leagues above anything you could do with a compact cassette recorder. Even the really good ones are not as good as a mediocre reel-to-reel like this, I guess. And you can actually still get tapes for these reels. They are still being produced because these are still used in like music recording studios and things like that. So you can still get 1/4-inch tape, pretty high quality stuff. But of course it's relatively expensive because it's a niche product only made by 1 or 2 companies at the moment still. But yeah, I very much appreciate the fact that I can still get tape material for this old machine. In case we get it working, I'm going to use this quite frequently, I'm sure. And it's a beautiful machine. It's really dusty because it has been sitting here gathering dust. So we're going to have to give it a good clean and some repairs, hopefully quite minor stuff. Let's dive in. Let me take a few seconds to thank the sponsor for this video, PCBWay, my favorite manufacturer of prototype PCBs of all kinds. They can also do CNC machining, 3D printing, sheet metal fabrication, injection molding, basically everything the tinkerer needs. All these services are of super high quality, the pricing is super reasonable. So I highly recommend checking out the link in the video description in case you're interested in such services. Back to our reel-to-reel. So first of all, this is just a protective cover. You can use this in both this upright position and you can also sit it flat. And this is just clipped in here and then it hinges upwards and rests on here, or you can take the whole thing off, which is what I'm going to do. You can just slide it out. And here are some of the features. It can play stereo tapes. It can play track 1 and 4 or 3 and 2 on the tape. And then we have this thing here, the logo, that just slides to the side. And you have your microphone inputs and a headphone output on there. That's really cool. You have these buttons here that feel pretty substantial. And these are actually only half mechanical. The functions are actually actuated by electromagnetic switches inside the mechanics. So when it's not turned on, it's not doing anything and not even moving the head or anything if I push play. Pause button that locks. This all seems fine. Very nice clunky power button. We have a tape counter that can be reset, just like on your compact cassette players. It has a 0 stop function, so you can set this up. If you rewind a tape, it can just stop at 0 and doesn't rip the tape out of the reels here. That's a pretty nice feature. Yeah, both the spindles here. This one is really stuck, so I think when you start moving it, it works reasonably well, but the other one is much smoother. And that's how it should be, really. Then we, of course, have analog VU meters. We have a balance slider here. We have bass, treble, and volume controls. These are the recording controls here, and these are really nice. I like the look of these, just sliding potentiometers here with these translucent knobs that have a little green line on them. Really nice. And the VU meters are also lit, as we are going to see. The lights, thankfully, still work. This device has speakers actually built in, one on the left and one on the right side. These are pretty nice sounding as well. You can see the grill here. And it has feet here. As I said, you can just lay it flat and operate it like that. Some connectors here. For speakers, you can hook up external speakers to this. I think it's just 5 watts output, but yeah, it's enough for a small room, and with decent speakers, you can actually get some sound from this. This has a built-in amplifier. You can hook up a remote that I don't have, and then you have a phono input for a record player and a tape in and out. These are all DIN sockets. The loudspeakers are also DIN. That was the standard at the time. No RCA, at least here in Europe at that time. Or very rarely you would see that on hi-fi devices. Interestingly, these were made in Austria. And here's the serial sticker. This is an N441600. 50 watts, 50 hertz. Serial number. I don't know what this is about. Probably another serial number. And it actually works, mostly. Let's give it some power. So you can see the VU meters light up. You have some crackle on the pots and things. Yeah. Fast forward. Rewind doesn't really work unless I give it a bit of a twist here. And you can see that the other spool is also moving during rewind. So this moves both spindle motors here while fast forwarding and rewinding. And play, yeah, doesn't have any tape in, so it's running a bit fast, I guess. Yeah, it mostly works. Even the amplification works partially. I think one speaker is dead. Maybe some of the transistors are dead. But the motor here, I think the motor is stuck. So we're going to take a look at that. And I'm going to show you just how serviceable this thing really is. It's going to be relatively tricky to film this for me in the little lab here because it is such a huge device. These work by just pulling, spring-loaded, and then you can twist it to hold the tape or release the reel. Just like this. Put it on there, pull this up, twist it slightly, and it's held in place. Of course, that's going to be more important while this is used in the upright position, so the reels don't fall off. The way to open this up, it's really easy actually. Need to remove these 3 screws here for taking this whole part off, as we're going to see. And these are slotted screws actually to make it look nicer, I think. Phillips screws, not made by the same Phillips. They were already a thing in the 70s, and there are quite a few Phillips screws in this device actually. So now you can take the whole thing off here. It's just a plastic thing with some paper to insulate it, I guess. And we can look at the mechanism. And this comes apart in a similar way. I'm going to show you a bit later. We have some brakes here. So when you fast forward or rewind, these don't turn endlessly because of inertia. These are engaged and brake the reels here, the spindles. We have our capstan flywheel here. The capstan is actually here, of course. And this is our capstan motor. We have our spindle motors. This one turns freely, it feels like. And this one needs quite a bit of force to turn it. So this motor got some damage, I think, or at least is very, very compromised. And as you can see here, somebody already replaced the belts here. These belts are not bad. These are round belts. I think originally these came with square belts. So these are the wrong belts for this machine, really. But they seem to do the trick, so yeah, it works rather well. This one turns so much easier. And I think it's the motor that got stuck. Tape heads, this is the erase head, the play and record head. Here we can also take this whole thing off, I think. And there's our pinch roller, which actually feels really nice. It's still really elastic, and it's also really easy to replace this. This whole thing comes up when you press play. There are some felt pads here to push the tape against the heads. We have little felt pads here where our belts might just hit the metal and get damaged. Everything is really well made and really thought through at that point in time. We even have little dust filters over the ventilation slots here. A little bit of fabric that I need to glue back. Yeah, really, really well made, constructed to last forever, which it kind of did. It still halfway works. Now, you probably thought that was easy to get to this. The next part is even better. We remove this screw, this screw, this screw, and this screw here. And then this whole portion just hinges. You can just lift it up and hinge it up. And there's another little feature. This actually has the mount that you can clip into one of the circuit boards here and prop it up to work on everything. Isn't that amazing? This is the service position, basically. You can reach all the electronics, which are in this part mostly, except for a transformer down here. And you can take out the whole tape mechanism, which also, that's just a few screws more. And you can take this whole mechanism out. I think companies today could learn a lesson from that. Yeah, the heads need a thorough cleaning. Both of them are super dirty, but that's going to be pretty easy. This here seems to be bent. It's one of the tape guides. But this is the tape guide, and this just prevents the tape from getting tangled up. I think this is meant to stand upright. Just going to bend that out of the way as my first step. This is not an important part. It's just literally just another layer of protection here. Yeah, that's pretty flimsy, actually. Bends really easily. But that's more like the position it is supposed to be in, I think. And on the electronics side of things, I just noticed that this circuit board actually has a crack in it. That got a hit at some point, I think. Another little detail, all the capacitors, at least the larger ones, are in these sleeves. So in case they leak, they don't destroy the whole machine. Yeah, this board unfortunately has a crack through it. It's just a single-sided board, so it's probably fixable. As you can see, it has little daughter boards here, basically, that are clipped in little connectors. You can replace all these and work on these individually. You can pretty much reach all of the electronics just in this position here. I might replace some capacitors. The transformer is down here, actually, the mains transformer. Well, that seems to work fine. I'm a bit concerned about the motor. That's the main thing at the moment. And I already have a replacement motor for that, because I don't think this is going to be salvageable. But we're going to see. Maybe we can save the motor even. I think I want to take the whole tape mech out. And I think it's just 4 screws here that hold this thing down. I think we're going to need to do this anyway, because we need to replace the belts. This also has metal washers and a felt washer underneath to minimize the vibrations. As I said, a lot of attention to detail, very well made. No corners cut to make this work well. And of course it pays off. Yeah, now the whole thing should come out. It has a connector here that you can just unplug basically. It really is a bit difficult to film this, but this, yeah, it's loose now, except for the belt on the counter, which we can just slide off here. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, and as you can see, there's a connector here that we can just remove. Yeah, and there's a lot of goo in here from the old belts still. That's not great. Yeah, this is where our counterbelt goes, and you can see here that there's a lot of black gunk. That's what the old belts did. They just turned into goo, basically. I'm going to have to do some more cleaning on that. I might want to take the whole thing out and unplug the connector to do that. Yeah, now this whole thing just comes out. It's just a separate part. So at least these belts just come off here. And these are still relatively good. Not sure when these got replaced. But yeah, there's some sticky stuff on there. On this one, we are going to replace all of that. And we're going to clean everything. And I think I want to remove this motor because it's totally stuck. I think there's a little hex screw that holds the wheel here on top. And then it looks like there are screws underneath, so we can unscrew the motor. It's screwed in through this metal plate here. It feels like the whole disassembly took me like 10 minutes or so. That is pretty amazing. Yeah, this got secured with some Loctite stuff. It's just a hex screw, and this should pull off, I think. Yeah, it does. Oh yeah, no wonder this motor isn't working right. This is what the belts turn into sometimes. This is all black tarry goo. No wonder this is stuck. That probably seeped into the whole motor. On the positive side, we have screws here, so we can take the whole motor out. This also got, yeah, it's really compromised, the whole thing. It seems like the old belts that were in here originally ruined the motor. Yeah, it's hardened. Maybe, yeah, look at that. It's not nice, but maybe can remove enough of it. It's really sticky and really hardened. Maybe we can remove enough of that to make this work, even without the replacement motor that I sourced. Sticky goo on a motor. I'm just going to put some alcohol on here, which should dissolve this stuff a bit. WD-40 is also a good thing that we could use here. Just going to get the WD-40 out, I guess, and kind of try to get the mess out of there. Yeah, I think it seeped into the whole thing. Don't know if we can get any of that in there. Maybe that loosens it a bit, but this stuff's already hardened really badly. Yeah, it seems it's just seeping in. I guess replacing the motor is the better fix in the long run. Thankfully, I have a replacement motor. These are pretty tough to find. I found one for another model, but I checked the service manual, and while it looked slightly different, it had the same part number. So my hope is that that one works actually in this one. I'm not sure about that. Don't know if it works, of course, until I try. just going to take the whole thing out. Maybe we can do more cleaning here. I think this is the main problem that this had with the tape transport. Even the screws are stuck, it feels like. Yeah. I think I'm just going to let it sit for a while and put some WD-40 on top of it in the hopes that it gets in there a bit and freeze it up. Yeah, but that's clearly what the problem is here. And as you can see, it actually gets in there. That's pretty nice. So maybe we can just flood this and clean it as well as we can from the outside. I think you can get in there by levering this thing out here. And yeah, you can get to the bottom here a bit, but it's not easy to work on these, so probably going to not even attempt that. Yeah, we need to clean this part here as well, and the roller part here. That's, yeah, these turn into goo and you have that everywhere. And already I have it on my hands. Yeah, no wonder if this got into the motor, that's not going to be too great. Yeah, it's not too bad. Yeah, and I'm basically going to do the same for this here, which thankfully moves absolutely freely, but it might have some residue from the disintegrated belt on it as well. Yeah, this is going to take a while. I guess I'm not going to film the whole process. It's pretty boring. I'm just wiping pieces of metal and plastic with alcohol. And toilet paper, actually. Yeah, there's definitely black stuff in there as well. So yeah, I'm just going to have to clean all of this thoroughly, because you don't want to get your new belts in contact with that. Yeah, lots of the black stuff on here where the belt was. Quite a few hours later, rinsing this basically with WD-40, spraying it into the top portion there and moving it around. You can slightly move it up and down. And now it seems to be unstuck again. I also got another bit of black gunk out of the smaller indentations here in the bearing. And it seems we don't have to take this apart. It just runs really smoothly now. Or at least as smoothly as it should. Just going to demonstrate that. It runs better than the other motor actually at the moment. I finished off with some sewing machine oil that I just put 2 drops into the top bearing there. And I guess this is good enough. At least that's as good as I can get this. And we are not going to use the replacement motor that I got. That, as you can see, maybe has a similar number here, not quite the same. And these are not quite the same size, but I think it should work fine. The wheel is the exact same size, so this is going to be a spare. Yeah, it's about the same now, considering the smoothness. Yeah, we got lucky and this was fixable. And now it should turn, I think all it was that it got glued down by the gunk basically, so it couldn't move properly. And now it moves properly again. So I'm going to put it back after wiping it a bit. And then we're going to continue. While I waited for the WD-40 to do its thing, I also cleaned this meticulously and it looks a lot better than before. There was some black gunk on where the belt is traveling. I just used some isopropanol and some cotton swabs and toilet paper. And now, yeah, this seems to be super clean, except for the portion underneath that has the gunk from the other belt on. So we're going to do that next. I think I want to put the motor back. And I think I also want to put a drop of oil into the other motor while I'm at it, because this is now running less smoothly than this one. The WD-40 shouldn't really harm anything inside here, I hope. If it breaks down after a while, I have a spare. Yeah, the other motor needs a drop of oil now. Just going to take off this wheel. These are kind of, yeah, I said that, I think. I think I mentioned that these are Loctited in place. This looks a lot more shiny. It didn't get any gunk into it, it seems. I'm just going to clean it and then put some sewing machine oil in there. I don't know what these red sprinkles are. Some kind of lacquer? Or maybe that's some of the Loctite they used. Just a drop in there. That was a big drop. It's probably enough. And then just move this up and down a bit and move it around a bit. This has some play. Yeah, the motors are a bit worn out, both of them, I guess. Just going to let that seep in there a bit and clean this part here, I think. Need to be a bit patient with this whole thing, but so far it's been really fun to work on. Just doing basically the same I did on the other one. Just cleaning this. There's a lot of dirt and dust and I guess cigarette smoke and things like that from the 70s on here still. Got the other one pretty shiny, so I hope to achieve the same with this. Yeah, and there's some black gunk on there as well, of course, because it seems like all the belts had disintegrated on this one. Yeah, that's a lot better. I'm also going to give this a good cleaning, just like I did with the other one. Just using my toothpick here again to get some of the remnants of the old belt out of there. That works really well, actually. Yeah, the next part is going to be cleaning the portion where the counter belt sat. There's a lot of gunk still on there. Yeah, I opened the window, so you might hear some crows in the background who are living here. So, yeah, this goes back on here. Yeah, they're at least about the same now. So let's move on, I guess, to the worst part, which is this here. I think I need to get this bracket out of the way to be able to take the belt out. That's still in here. Maybe we can take off this nut and then 2 screws on the back here. This is already super loose. So, yeah. It's a plastic bearing there. Okay, let's see if we can get this thing off here. Yeah, that moves the whole thing out of the way. Okay, yeah, and this is all completely caked in this stuff. So, yeah, this needs a good cleaning. This thing needs a good cleaning. So I'm just going to take out the belt, which feels old, but not bad. Yeah, this has the same little set screws that the rollers on the motor have. Just some hex screws here, 2 of them. And then this should come off. Yeah. And this also needs a very good cleaning, of course. Yeah, that wipes off really well, thankfully. Okay, let's try and clean the other parts. This here. I think this had some lubrication on it. And yeah, it's a plastic part here that this rubs against, I guess. It already looks a bit better than it was. But yeah, just going to clean this with isopropanol thoroughly and the other parts as well. Yeah, I'm going to get some more toothpicks, I think. Okay, this looks good. This needs a bit of a wipe. And then we're going to have to put the belt in before we reassemble this, basically. Oh, we can get the whole thing out, okay. And we can clean the whole shaft here and put a drop of oil in here. Sorry, you didn't really see that. This whole thing comes out and there's a little red washer here. We don't want to lose. It's just a plastic washer. Yeah, this just pokes through from the other side. And I'm just going to put a tiny bit of oil in there, I think, and clean the shaft here a bit. So this just feeds in from the bottom here. No other strings attached. Yeah, that's pretty nice. Now this goes on here. And then we're going to reattach it. Yeah, that's pretty nice. So I'm just going to see which one of my belts is the one that fits there. So here's my belt kit, which should include all the belts, I hope. And we have two that are for the wheels, I think this one here is the counter belt. Yep. I just compared the length of it with the other one. There's another one that is for the capstan, I think. Maybe we should replace the capstan belt before we do anything else, just to make sure that we get the right belt on there. There are two belts that are super similar in size, and I think to remove the capstan belt we just have to unscrew this bracket here, which we need to do anyway at some point. So, ooh, okay. That is an interesting construction. I think we can get away with just taking out one of the screws here. There's a pipe here that holds this in position, just slightly loosening the other screw. Unwrap the wire here. And this should move out of the way. There we are. Okay, and now we can take the belt off. Yay! There's a bit of grease on the top here because there's another plastic part here that it rubs against from this side. We're going to clean it with a bit of alcohol. At least the side here. This is the flywheel I'm talking about. The capstan is the rod that goes through that comes out on the other transport side. Okay, there's quite a bit on there. So this needs a bit of a cleaning as well. Well, that's not so difficult in this case. And the new belt can go on, I think. This is going to be a bit fiddly because we have to get it over the wheel on the other side, actually. Yeah, I think this is the correct one for this. And it's going to straighten itself out. Yeah, this feels right. I'm going to clean this wheel as well, because I'm sure, yeah, there's some black crusty stuff in there. Could also take the whole wheel off here, but I don't think I'm going to bother too much. And the belts in the kit are all square belts, which I believe is the correct thing for this machine. Although the other ones seem to have worked fine. Yeah, it should be good to go. Going to put a tiny bit of silicone grease on top of the flywheel rod here. Just to make the rubbing against the plastic part a bit smoother. And then we just have to put the screw back in, I think. And there's a little spring-loaded washer on top here as well. And it's actually not that bad replacing these belts. Yeah, that should do nicely, I think. Just fixing our wire conglomerate here again. So, a tiny bit of grease on here as well, because it rubs against the plastic part. This is just standard silicone fat or silicone grease. I'm pretty sure they used a very similar thing originally on these parts. This goes on here. There we go. Yeah, it's probably going to be okay. We're going to figure that out later. Okay, so that's already half of our belts in, I guess. We need to give this whole thing a good cleaning. I think I'm going to get the vacuum cleaner out to do the first pass and then clean all the parts. Oh, this is now way too tight. I think I need to fiddle with that some more. Do we have to loosen this thing here a bit? Probably. It's the thing that holds it in place. Yeah. Okay. So you don't want to tighten this before you have it in position here. Yeah, now it works correctly. Nice. So this works, this works. We need to clean this whole area here and the rest of it, and I'm just going to vacuum it out with a little brush at first, because there's quite a bit of dust particles, it looks like, in here. So just using my regular vacuum cleaner and yeah, cleaning off the dust a bit with one of these things for cleaning PCs. The vacuum cleaner is out of frame, but it's under the table. It's my regular vacuum cleaner. Just going to remove the layer of dust. And I'm going to turn down the volume probably. And then more cleaning with Q-tips and alcohol. And some of this is just a bit corroded, I think. Doesn't look great. It's a bit rusted in places. But everything still seems to be functional, at least. We are going to clean the tape path as well. So everything that the tape travels on needs to be as clean as possible. And you're supposed to do that regularly, just cleaning all the metal parts and the capstan, which is a metal part, and the heads, of course. But I'm doing that last. The heads are pretty crusty on this one. I just want to get most of the gunk of the other stuff. Now for the heads, I guess. And the pinch roller, that could use a drop of oil as well. Not sure if I want to remove that. Just going to put a bit of oil on there. And it might make its way down. Yeah, that's already much better. Just wiggling it around slightly. Of course, you don't want this to be oily, but we're going to clean that with a special compound in a bit. Nice, okay, the heads. And these are going to be cleaned like all the other stuff. With a Q-tip and isopropanol. And there's quite a bit coming off there. Yeah, these have not been cleaned in a long time. And it doesn't help that this probably played some really worn out tape as well, the old stuff. This needs some more rounds of cleaning. Yeah, these are supposed to be cleaned every few hours, really. When I worked as an audio engineer, we cleaned these every time we started a session, ended a session, no matter if it was recording or mixing. These had to be cleaned. And also you would align the tape machines, of course, in a real studio with an alignment tape, which I don't have because these are super expensive. And I don't really need a perfectly aligned machine for my personal use. Yeah, now we're getting there slowly. And I'm going to do the same with the erase head over here, which is used to record over already recorded stuff, of course. It's erasing the tape before you do that. Yeah, that one is really dirty. Okay. Yeah, this is going to take some time and some effort. Look at that. That just came off that head. Looks like this was not cleaned regularly. But yeah, it's basically just a matter of wiping this thoroughly with some Q-tips. I'm going to report back. Now for cleaning the pinch roller, I'm using this Printer 66, Contact Chemie Printer 66, which has worked very well for me for cleaning rubber parts. And yeah, I'm just going to do the same with this. It also slightly rejuvenates the rubber in most cases and gets off a whole lot of gunk. This pinch roller feels really good still. It's really elastic, but it's pretty dirty. So I'm not really worried about this gripping the tape at all, but I'm a bit worried about it making my tape dirty. I think that's our mechanism cleaned. And I think everything is running pretty smoothly. I think we might be able to try this in the machine actually. Oh, and of course we need to put the other belts in. So these are the same, both of them. Same size. And they go around here and around the motors. And they are straightening themselves out because they are square belts. So same on the other side. And that's pretty easy to do, of course. You just have to get the brakes out of the way, which are just spring-loaded, so it's just a matter of pushing them a bit out of the way. Ideally, if you don't do it like I just did. Yeah. So I suppose this should technically work again. That was just the motor that was stuck. So I'm going to put this back in the housing preliminarily, I guess, and put the counterbelt over the counter pulley. Oh, and I'm totally going to give this a bit of a vacuum cleaning before I put the mechanism back in. While we're here, there's some dust in there, of course. Oh, I can clean the little wheel on the counter as well. Could take the whole counter out, but this one doesn't look that dirty at all. So back with the mechanism. And yeah, we're going to have to fish out the counterbelt here and position it. And we have to plug our connector back in. That's kind of easy to put this together. Okay, let's see what the tape transport and things like that do now. So it should be on. It's spinning. Fast forward. Rewind. This is kind of hitting something there. Should be slightly raised up, but the motor seems to work again. Yeah, I think that's better than it was, actually. Nice. The motor seems to be fine, so that was the main problem here. So it's a day later, actually, and I did some more tinkering off camera, sorry. And had a look at the service manual, which I should have probably done in the first place. But yeah, I found out how to set the height of the spindles here. And also another neat feature that I didn't realize, just getting the belt from my counter off here and hooking it around here. And with all the screws removed, this actually sits in here quite nicely like this. There are actually little seats for the motors and the whole thing sits pretty sturdily with everything connected, so you can test stuff and set stuff up while this is connected and running, which is pretty neat. Yeah, let me talk about the height setting here. So we saw the little plastic thing that the spindle actually rests on, that I lubricated. And you can actually remove this nut, and this is a screw. So this, you can screw the plastic part towards this direction and then secure it with the nut. That's the whole height adjustment for the spindles. And on the other side, it looks very similar. It's there's no belt on there, of course, but otherwise it's a very similar construction with that. Yeah, that's all it is. So I set this to, I don't know, 1 millimeter higher than it was or something. Similar to what it is set up on the other side. And then you secure the nut again and everything's good. And another thing that I did was to adjust these brakes in a way so that they actually engage with the spindles. So these are put out of the way by the mechanism when you roll tape actually. And they are supposed to stop these from spinning when you hit pause or stop, or yeah. That's the purpose of these. And I bent these out of the way previously. I didn't show that. But you can just kind of pivot these on this little rivet here, I think. I think it's a rivet. And then you can just use a pair of pliers to slightly rotate them towards this. You can also bend several parts here. That's all laid out in the service manual in case these get misaligned. But they are working fine like this. And of course you would have to do all kinds of setup in this and align it properly. The height of the spindles even is important, of course, for the tape path to be exact. But I didn't do that yet. I'm probably going to make another episode about this whole thing. I'm super happy that I got the mechanism to work at least halfway again at this point, and it took long enough. So I think I'm going to screw this down now because it works. I can't show you how it works. I have one tape and the tape is, I warn you, it is very, very poor quality. I found this in the trash actually, but I can at least show you that this works. And I also figured out last night when I continued working on this, yeah, this is pretty much gone, this tape. But for demonstration purposes, it might just be enough. Yeah, something like that. And we can actually play this. And I figured out that the amplifier is actually working on both sides. So I just had it in the wrong setting. This has, as we've seen, it has a stereo setting, and that was what was selected. And now in another setting, this is German Volksmusik. Yeah, just to demonstrate that the mechanism now works. And it stops instantly, that's what it's supposed to do. I can fast forward. Can stop again, I can rewind. Yeah, but as I said, this tape is, yeah, it's very worn out. It doesn't even sound great, but the sound came from both speakers. So the amplifier section is indeed working fine, unlike what I said earlier. And it's just a mono tape that I have here. I need to get some more reel-to-reel tapes, definitely. And I really need to set this up properly sometime. I'm going to do a lot more work on this. For now, I am going to glue some parts here back. I think some of the stuff that came loose over the years. And I'm going to try to glue the circuit board back together, which seems to work just fine. It just has a crack in it, but the crack is only on the top side. So probably some drops of glue into the crack kind of are going to fix that. It just, the solder connections seem to all be there, given the fact that this thing is working completely, as far as I can tell at this point, because I don't have any more tape material to test this with and to adjust it properly and things. That's going to be for another video. Probably going to take another look at this circuit board. I'm just going to put a bit of glue on there for now, just to prevent it from getting worse, I guess. And I'm going to glue some other parts as well. And then I'm going to give everything a good wipe. And that's going to be that for this video, I think. Just putting a tiny amount of glue on here. And I'm going to try to work it into the crack a bit. Yeah, it's still wobbly, but we need to come up with some kind of construction for that. I think we could build kind of a bracket for it or something to hold it in there. Given that this is the amplifier board, I'm not going to use this really in daily use because I'm going to hook this up to the living room stereo in the longer run. But yeah, would still be nice to have this sit in here a bit more reliably. But it's, yeah, the circuit board itself is a bit bendy and it has a crack in it, but now I at least made it a bit more stable, I guess. Yeah, there we go. And there's another bit here. Hey, and I got some crazy glue on my hands, of course, as usual. Yeah, just going to put the screws back. This is not very interesting, just the same as before, but in reverse order. And obviously this whole thing needs a bit of a wipe as well. And the faders need a bit of contact cleaner. And you can take them apart fully, but I'm not going to do that in this video. And yeah, it's relatively easy to take this apart. And I'm going to do that a number of times after this. I'm pretty sure there's going to be more problems along the way. This is pretty old. Oh, another thing that needs gluing back. Just going to use quite a bit on here. So, and I'm going to get a cloth and wipe this off, I guess. So this just gets a bit of a wipe with some window cleaner to Get the stains of the ages off. Seems reasonable. Yeah, it's going to get a bit more of a wipe and some more vacuuming, I guess. This part here, of course, also needs a wipe. This whole part usually comes with the lid, but that's missing because this was probably used in a stereo, in a hi-fi system. So yeah, the connectors are here, as you've seen. But that's missing from mine, but that's a minor thing. Good enough for me for now. I'm going to spray some contact cleaner into all the faders there, which of course you can take out and take apart and things. I'm not going to do that now. Just going to spray some contact cleaner in there and move them. Now the cover has some scratches on it that maybe can be polished out, and there's also some things where there was another device on here, I think, at some point, and there's hardened like rubber stuff on there. Yeah, pretty happy with it now. So far, needs a bit more work if I take it seriously, if I decide to take it more seriously. The whole cover thing has some pretty severe scratches. See if it still works. Oh, that's a nice feature of lighting only the channels that are active. So stereo lights both of the VU meters. 1 and 4 only lights the left one. And the lights still work, which is pretty nice. Yeah, it works. Yeah, and now going down the rabbit hole of reel-to-reel stuff is starting for me. Not quite sure if I'm looking forward to this. I already made some purchases online that go towards more reel-to-reel stuff because these are lovely machines, and I want to do more things with, at least with this one, and maybe I'll get some more tapes, some better ones. Maybe I do some proper alignment of this at some point. I have to look at the electronics at some point, at least replace the capacitors and clean the faders and stuff a bit more thoroughly than I just did. I think they got a bit better by just spraying contact cleaner in there from above, which of course won't reach everything in there. Yeah. I hope you enjoyed this tangent, another tangent. I'm going to be back with something completely different, probably related to old computers again, in a few days. Thank you very much for your time. Hope you enjoyed this. Thanks for your donations on Patreon and on Ko-fi and on the YouTube channel memberships page. Thanks for your comments and your thumbs and things like that. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel if you happen to be interested in ancient audio stuff and not quite so ancient computer stuff as well. That's it for today. I'm Jan Beta. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye.